No way, Jose.
The following footage proves beyond any doubt that the tanks intentionally set the house on fire. It proves that the Branch Davidians were murdered. You can see that this tank has a gas jet on the front that shoots fire. You can also see the fire quite plainly. The tank goes into the house twice, and each time as it backs out, the fire at the gas jet is plainly visible.
We must all do more to recognize and look for the early warning signals that deeply troubled young people send.
Good morning. This is the No Way Jose podcast. You are watching The Morning Dump, and this is Jose Galison. Am I sounding good? Looking good? I checked my mic today. I think we should be in the clear. Sorry, I'm starting a little bit later today, guys. I had a rough one today. This also kind of explains. This is also an apology to my patrons. I will try to find a way to make up with you. I was supposed to have this past week. We were supposed to do the second part for the Vegas one. That is not there. We had to reschedule on Thursday due to the guest. Essentially, he had to pick up an extra shift, had to work a double or whatever. And then this Sunday, it was kind of like, I mean, I think he ended up having to again, but it was also like I would have had to either way because one of my cats went into labor, and I've been dealing with that since like 2 in the afternoon yesterday, and literally just like an hour or so before we started here, the last one came out. So good. I had a rough night. So if I'm a little loopy today, that is why. I am very tired. I was sleeping on the floor next to a kitty cat because some of them are, you'd be surprised. Like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming none of you have dealt with animal husbandry or not much, but some of them are pretty clingy, and like they won't even give birth unless you're there. They'll pause labor. So I know. Yeah, I have to say with them, that cat is particular. So yes, I finally got released from the kitty cat's grasp. I had an episode lined up for you guys last night, but it fell through in multiple different ways on the guest end. Then I got a new guest, and then I got that, and then it fell out through on my end. But I'll make up for it. We'll get to it. We will do it for sure. I mean, we do have a pretty stacked month coming up. A lot of wild shit, but. All right, let's go to the chat real quick. What's up, Eddie? How you doing, bud? And then we got Doctor. Good morning from Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Good morning. Good morning. There's some 09A symbolism there. What the fuck is that? It looks similar. Good morning, Fire Pixie. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I do want to remind you guys, if you guys have something specifically you really do feel the need to have brought up, or if you just want to support the show, you can drop a Rumble rant over on Rumble. I am not monetized on YouTube, so you can't super chat there. So it is what it is. And then also just for some reason they don't patch over super chats from it. So if you're even on Rumble, I'll see normal chats, but I don't see super chats. So send the super chat and then say super chat, then I'll go over and look. So I'll notice. But yeah, guys, it's a pleasure to be with you guys. I didn't do one yesterday either, mostly just because there wasn't much going on, and so I wanted to take a day off. So I did, not expecting I was going to end up taking. I almost took today off. So, well, guys, let's go ahead and while we wait. For people to roll in, I do got to pay the bills real quick. I do want to remind you guys that today's episode is brought to you by Nadeau Shave Coat. If you're tired of that razor burn, that irritation, those ingrown hairs caused by these deep penetrating multi-blade cartridges, then this is the way to go. You can return to the traditional shave. Wow, what the fuck? You can return to the traditional shave. You don't need to. You can shave just like your grandpa used to. Whether you're shaving your whole face or edging of the beard, the single blades give you a barber-grade shave for a fraction of the price. See, you guys can tell I'm already tongue-tied. I'm out of it, man. I'm tired. This standard edition includes one traditional safety razor and a box of 100 stainless steel razor blades. That puts you out about $75, and the estimate there is supposed to last you for a year. Well, let's be real, though. That really depends on who you are. Most people, that's going to last you a lot longer than a year. I've barely put a dent in mine, and I got it well over a year ago. Now, if you're someone who shaves daily, that's not going to cut it for you. You're going to need the Quarter Shave Club. That'll put you at about 25 cents per replacement blade. He's also got shave soaps, 3-in-1 body, hair, and face soaps as well. This is a COVID mandate refusing company. This company was born in refusing the mandate. So let's run through this real quick. This is a company that creates a superior product in that it will literally give you a better shave and is better for your face. It's a cheaper product. And then on top of that, this is from a company that doesn't hate you. And then last but not least, you can get 10% off if you use code Jose when you at checkout. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and get back into the chat. What's up, fellas? Let's go ahead and get into some content. Real quick, I do want to real quick. This is I'm not going to go through each one of these, but just to show you, I do want to remind you guys, I do get a lot of information. I listen to anti-war news almost damn near every day. He does like a 5-day-a-week show. It takes off weekends. And, I pretty much listen every night. It's worthwhile. This is where I get a lot of my info on foreign policy. So just a quick run through, because there was some stuff that I felt like was relevant for you guys. So we got the Gaza. There's a piece here. Gaza truce hinges on Trump Netanyahu talks. Now just a quick summation of that. That is from my understanding, from my recollection, from Dave telling me about it this morning, essentially that what happened is Trump, there's the whole phases. We've talked about this multiple times with the whole peace deal going on. And there has been lots of talks about Israel not wanting to, and essentially wanting to drop it at phase 2 and just be like, they're cool with phase 1, but then phase 2, they just kind of want to return to hostilities. There were supposed to be some people coming to meet, I believe, at the White House, or I'm not sure, some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word for? Peace talkers or negotiators? That's what we're looking for. That were supposed to come from Israel, I believe, on Monday, or actually today. And I guess Netanyahu, I believe on Saturday actually, or something or essentially a few days ago, said something along the lines of, "Hey, nope, fuck that. You guys don't do that. We'll send you later." The idea being is, I guess he wanted to go talk to Trump on his own first because he is scheduled to meet with Trump. I forget when. It's sometime very, very soon. But he's scheduled to meet with Trump, and apparently the rumors is that he is really wanting to kind of have a personal talk to try to appeal to Trump to allow them to essentially kind of allow them to continue hostilities. So, we're kind of between a rock and a hard place here, because you have on one side, you have Netanyahu wanting to continue hostilities, and on the other side, you have at least Trump rhetorically talking about how we need to move these people. So neither is great, although then on top of that too, even then, even with people returning, it is kind of a hellhole there. So I don't know. It is kind of a shit situation altogether. Now, on the Syria front, I thought this was particularly interesting. I guess Trump did make some sort of, I guess he made some sort of claims that we're not involved in Syria, although it's pretty clear we are. There was some stuff recently that, but I don't know. They could just be being out of touch. Being Trump, I don't know. He's not always in touch with what is going on, actually. From his first administration, we know that they were lying to him about like troop sizes and stuff like that, and he never really got wise to it. So, it's pretty easy to pull the wool over his eyes, it seems, at least. Maybe he'll be more vigilant this time around. But the crux that I thought was interesting, I guess over in Syria now, we have a new group popping up. I believe it's called the Islamic Front or something, Islamic Republic Front or something Islamic Front in Syria, and they've already attacked some Israel, so they took some shots at some Israel settlements there, because for those who don't recall, whenever Syria collapsed recently, the Al-Qaeda took over. Al-Qaeda, not Al-Qaeda, they're called something else, I guess, but it's basically Al-Qaeda. Whenever that happened, Israel moved in along their border and essentially took some as a buffer zone, quote unquote. As if we're not wise to their bullshit yet. And it's like, no, you're making settlements to expand your territory. Okay. Well, some of the people in Syria are not too happy with that, and they are rebelling against that regime and against the Al-Qaeda regime they have in place over in Syria right now. So I know we might see some more shit. All of the shenanigans, all the attempts to control the Middle East may not really fall in the way they want. So it looks like another rebel group's growing, which, surprise, surprise. It's almost like, whoa, who would have thought when you overtly, stick your hand into the pot and mess with things that, things will kind of, spring back, So, let me see I think there's anything else specifically in that. I think that was really it so far on that side of things that I found was interesting, the anti-war things. Now let's get into, there's been a new executive order. Now Gung Ho shared this with me. I do want to remind you guys can tag me, and this is, most of the time I will bring up your content if you do tag me on Twitter. And yeah, so here we go. Here is Trump with a new executive order. Let's hear him out.
Today, I am signing an executive order making it legal to call your friends fags and retards if they are doing something faggy or retarded. Fags and retards, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to start calling our friends this again. And we will. We're going to call them fags and retards again.
Baby, we're so back. We are so back. We've reached levels of back that I can't believe. I don't know, it was just silly. I don't know, just figured to make you guys laugh. It's I never stopped. But if anything, I don't know if I want to do that anymore now, because it's like, hey, it's legal. The secret ingredient was crime. All right, we got, who do we got? Shout out to Punxsutawney from Mike and MCA. Used to go hunting with my dad there every Thanksgiving for opening a buck season. Used to stay at the Buffalo Lodge back when they had a restaurant, actual buffalo. Man, I miss hunting when I was a little kiddo. I remember when I was little, and I used to go hunting with my dad. Be cold as fuck, and me and him would be out like 4 a.m. with having some coffee and some food at some weird ass lodge somewhere, and fun time. So we paying for that group too is Eddie Grimm. I would not be the least bit surprised if we come to find out that, hey, we are funding these people, but yeah, all right, let's go ahead and continue down this. Now, here's a follow-up on the plane side of things. I know we talked about this, I believe, on Saturday, I think is when so the last live stream, the last morning dump, I believe we kind of touched on the plane crash in Philly, which the Learjet 55, that looked like humongous explosion, looked like it was some sort of like a bomb or missile or something. Which, I mean, I feel like I was pretty clear from the beginning that, like, we don't really know. So, be open to, I feel like there were a lot of people out there that did go hard in the paint of it being a missile. And, I mean, you know what? Maybe they're still right. I just feel like this is one of those stories that maybe it was better to be cautious. I mean, we do see a huge explosion. At first glance, you think, like, that seems way too much for a plane. But I don't know. I mean, it's not like I've really conducted experiments on, like, all right, now let's have this Learjet, nosedive with full engine, with engines at full thrust, with half a tank, now with full tank. Like, what does it look like? I don't really know. I mean, I've heard people say too that, like, when you are dealing with something like this, when they actually, not just like a fall thing, but like literally are engines thrusting to the ground, like literally. So there's a difference between, like, if you just like stalled out or something and you just have a free fall, because there is, like, was it terminal velocity? I don't even remember what that is, but like, you top out at a certain amount. Whereas now, if you are nosediving and you have engines at full thrust, it's like, all right, we're dealing with a different beast now. Does that account for this humongous explosion we see? I don't know. I mean, I will be honest with you. My feeling when I see something like that is that's not a plane. That's huge. But I don't know. The reason why I'm kind of caveating all this right now is because in this video we can kind of see what looks like, well, not kind of, we can pretty much straight up see that this is almost certainly a plane. I mean, we've also seen wreckage earlier, which, don't get me wrong, I'm a schizo motherfucker, so, like, I'm completely open to the idea that, like, either it could have actually been some sort of plane thingy, but they put a bomb on it, or somehow it did somehow also involve a plane, but also a missile, or even, let's say, it was a missile and then they just put wreckage out there to kind of, like, stage the area. I'm open to all these ideas. I'm open to it. I mean, you do get a little bit, like, gets a little more or less likely at that point. But this one, it does seem to be the most logical answer, is that it is a plane. And I'm about to show you this video. I mean, sorry for the audio people, but just, I guess, take my word for it. I did also see a video before this one where I did see what looked like blinking lights, which, I don't know, part of me thought it'd be funny if it was a missile and they just, like, put FFA lights or FAA lights on a missile just to, like, trick us. I don't know. Something about that would be funny to me. But it seems to be this. All right, I'm going to play this now. Enough talking, building up it. But watch this video and you'll see what I mean. You see the top right there, the very top right of the thing. And see, even that explosion right there, that is huge. I mean, that's, like, really a plane, seriously. But let's keep playing. For those who didn't catch it, in the very, very tip-top right-hand corner, that's where it comes through. But they're going to play it over here in a second, nice and slow, and you'll be able to see it close up, too. All right, here's the close-up. All right, there we go. See, I'm going to... See, you can see that's clear as day. That's a plane. You can see the lights on one side. You can see the fuselage. You can see the light on the other side. It's clearly at like a, turned completely on its side right now. So you can see it's like a vertical. The plane wings going vertical, essentially. So yeah. But we can, and you can see, yep, coming down. You can still see the indent of it. It's very clear. Like that's a plane or some weird ass missile, I guess. I don't know. Or I guess I could have put a missile on a plane. I have no idea the logistics of how this would work out, but it's kind of looking more and more like it's just easily explainable, and it just is one of those bizarre things where you're like, whoa, that's weird. So, all right. So they slowed down even more here. Let me see. Yeah. Clearly a plane. So I'm sorry. I know we like it. It would almost be more fun, but I mean, it's still sad. It's an awful thing that happened. I mean, it was a little kid that died, from my recollection of the story. So it is a real bummer, but it's looking like it's more and more that's just a plane. So I don't know. Maybe planes do really fucking blow up humongously. I don't know. It is what it is. All right. Hey, what's up, Doctor? Late and gay. What is up? Everyone's talking about going hunting in the morning. Good morning, not nice guy. Good morning. It's a plane loaded with fuel for cross-country flight is what Joey Poop Bag says. Yeah, so maybe with a full tank of gas. That's kind of what it looks like. So, yeah. I mean, that's to me, that's kind of looks like the end of it. I mean, maybe we'll find out more, but I'm struggling to find how this is anything more than just a plane at this point. All right, what else we got? Let's continue with we're going, just to remind you guys what's going on in our man, what am I fucking, my words, what's going on in the world right now? We are dealing with a trade war, or tariff war, or whatever you want to call it. That's from Raw Alerts. This is over the weekend. Actually, yeah, over the weekend, I believe it's Friday. Mexico's announced it will join Canada in imposing retaliatory tariffs on the United States, specifically targeting red states. Now, if I recall correctly, I don't know if it was Canada or Mexico. I believe Trump, after this, then responded like, "Well, then we'll double theirs." So, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of fun when you do see this whole well, then I'll double this or I'll quadruple, and they're doing these back and forth. It is kind of fun, I guess, to see in a sense when you win, I guess, because there have been situations like I don't know if we talked about this in the show. There was at I believe it was Colombia, where he sent back some immigrants, and the president got all pissy about it and was basically no, we're not going to do this. And then immediately Trump was I forget all the restrictions, but it's we're going to lay this on you, that on you, this, that, this. And then almost immediately, the president was oh, just kidding. I'll bring over my plane and I'll pick them up. We're good. So those are always fun to see. But the flip side of that is well, what happens when they call your bluff? You kind of got to do it. And then now what does that mean? I know everyone, I don't know to what degree this is I know popular with my audience, but I'm not really a tariff guy. Now, I've said before, I'm completely open to the idea. I'm not even, I guess open to the idea is the wrong way to put it. I sort of like the idea, theoretically, if I could snap my fingers and if I could trade the income tax for the tariff or something, maybe even if it had a similar percentage or something like that. So it was you could say it's having a similar effect, but in a different way. I would be better with that. I'd be way okay with that. But the problem is that's not how it works. You just end up getting both. And so now here we are dealing with already still having the income tax, and now he is doubling down on all these taxes. So these are a tax on us as we end up as a consumer having them. And in a certain sense, it does kind of create incentives to, make things more insular and coming from the United States, but kind of at our own detriment in a way. I don't know. So that's, I don't know. We'll see how this plays out. I just think it's kind of just silly. It's kind of fun to watch it when you win altogether, but I don't think you're always going to win. And it's real people out here that trying to buy stuff in the world. You're trying to get by. Things are still rough out here. It's not like Trump's in and now inflation's gone, so things are still rough out here, people. And raising prices is not a joke. So it's, I don't know. We don't want prices any higher. So I don't know. I'm not a really big fan of the whole tariff stuff. So I don't know what you guys' thoughts are. You can chime in the chat if you disagree. On a similar note, here's Pete Hegseth. This is, he said, just confirmed that the U.S. will now conduct special ops against Mexican cartels now that Trump has declared them foreign terrorist organizations. So let's listen to what Hegseth has to say about this. Once again, another thing with this administration I'm really not all that enthused about. But
drug cartels have been declared terrorist organizations. And if you find that, and we know if there's Al Qaeda, we're going to hit them. I don't care if you're in Somalia, Sudan, or in Syria. If we find that they continue to fire at our border,
well, that's horseshit. Al-Qaeda is running Syria. But all right, let's keep going.
Border control, and they continue to put fentanyl into our country. As the Secretary of Defense, are you permitted now to go after them in Mexico or wherever they are?
Brian, I don't want to get ahead of the president, and I won't. But that's ultimately going to be his decision. But let me be clear, all options will be on the table. If we're dealing with what are designated to be foreign terrorist organizations who are specifically targeting Americans on our border, and we're finally securing our border. We've been securing other people's border for a very long time. The military is shifting toward an understanding of homeland defense on our sovereign territorial border. That is something we will do and do robustly.
Now, I just want to reiterate this is probably one of the things that I say terrified, but I mean, I'll be honest, it doesn't really actually terrify me, but in a certain sense, I'm the most concerned about. Like, of all the things, I mean, don't get me wrong, I guess the Gaza stuff I'm very concerned about, but there is, like, to some extent that is more, it's more like a extrinsic, like somebody out there in the world that's like going to, save their lives. And in a real world, how this affects me, if like the Gaza stuff, it affects me like when it comes to my taxes, and that's a big deal. But so like comparing the two issues, we have this issue being the southern border cartel being labeled as foreign terrorist organizations. This concerns me a lot more. This is probably the ones I almost said terrified. I just feel like that was oversaying. It sounded kind of faggy to be like I'm terrified. But yeah, this is the one I'm most concerned about because this could get real weird. This could get into very odd Spook City shit real quick. And I don't know. I really feel like we're going to this could enter really weird territories. Like this, I say Spook City because like I think once the cartel starts doing stuff, which they very likely might on their own, then it's like I don't know. They would be very open to spooks doing similar shit because they're kind of already embedded in all these organizations. So it's like, I don't know, it just keeps thinking about this for some reason always brings to mind thoughts of like Northwoods, because Northwoods, for those who don't recall, that was the Joint Chiefs of Staff that proposed it, and to Kennedy, or I don't know, maybe Kennedy found out about it. I can't remember if it was proposed to him or if he found about it later and was like, what the fuck? But when he found out about it, he was like, fired the dude. Then the dude who, was it Lemnitzer? And then Lemnitzer actually, ironically, went over to the UN, and then he started running that over there. Was it UN? Yeah, UN. And then he looks like, it looks like he was probably the dude kind of running Gladio shit too. So weird that like, hey, he got booted out of there and they essentially did the same thing over there. But anyways, I digress. The key issue that I'm kind of honed in on here is that with the Northwoods thing, that was the issue at the time was the Cubans. So the move was that we were going to see attacks on like shootings, bombings, whatever, here and there, just little things here and there, and they were all supposed to be like essentially attributed to Cuba, to gin up Cuba stuff. And I don't know, I can kind of see, I mean, obviously Cuba was kind of like to our border, sort of like not far off in the what is it, like to our south or whatever in the ocean. I think it's like somewhere in like the Florida Gulf type area around there. I forget exactly where the fuck Cuba is. But anyways, point being, it's kind of a similar geographically speaking. So it's like, it feels like that, but almost worse. So, and like once hostilities start, whether it's the cartel or the spooks that start, things will get weird and bizarre. And like, I don't know. I just feel like we're going to lose grip on that real quick. Like if the powers that be decide they want shit to go live on the southern border, especially now that they have this in place, it'll go live when they want it to go live because they have the capabilities to make shit dark, if that makes sense. Make things start happening. So I don't know, a little bit concerned. Now I will say this story right here, though, this specific tab, it is kind of a nothing story in a sense because it's like, oh, the all options are on the table, and he's like, I gotta wait till Trump says it. It's like, yeah, okay, like once you've declared them a foreign terrorist organization, it's like, yeah, we know that, like. At that point, yeah, all options are on the table, and then Hegseth is kind of just waiting until Trump makes a determination on whatever he wants to do. So in reality, yeah, it is like, I mean, of course, like once, hey, we've determined so-and-so is a bad guy. And you're like, what are the options? And you're saying it to the guy who's like essentially the main dude's like essentially his main general. And you're like, well, whatever. I mean, I have all these options. So literally all my options, they are on the table. These are all the things. And he's the boss. So whatever he says. So it's kind of like a no shit. This is like literally just describing the nature of how his relationship and that guy's relationship works and the things that he has. So it's like, I know, it's just retarded. It is kind of a non-story, but I don't know. I guess I figured it'd be a good time to remind you guys that's wild. That is a freaky situation on our southern border. And I don't know. I know a lot of people are like, well, they're poisoning us and they're criminal organizations. Like, yeah, that's true, but I don't know if that's really how you want to go about this. This is a dicey situation. All right, let's check in on the chat. Got a lot of... Oh, geez, I forgot to turn that one off a while ago. It also had full oxygen canisters from Voluntary Planet. Now, I don't know if that would really make too much of a difference. Now, I was talking about this the other day, that if they had locks on board, liquid oxygen, maybe. I could see that. But, like, just normal oxygen canisters, I don't feel like that'd make a huge deal. Unless they have some sort of crazy, like, system in that plane that stores a ton of oxygen. But most of them are just, like, little oxygen bottles is what they have in most. Like, little ones you can hook up. Like, they're nothing crazy. I don't know. They would... I mean, if those blew up, it wouldn't be like humongous. I don't know. I mean, I've never blown one up, but that would just be my guess. Last wish was to release an Epstein client list. I don't know what that's in reference to. Eddie says, for sure the fuel thing. We did the same with calculating the explosion of torpedoes. We'd factor in remaining fuel along with the PBXN. Planes are the same, just no payload. There we go. All right, swimming with dolphins. Who was I even talking about? Some woman earlier. I don't even remember what you were talking about, Corey. Thanks for joining us, though. Mexico just folded, sending troops to the border to help stop drugs and migrants. Yeah, no, this is one of those things. Like, if you are able to, I guess this kind of is a lot like the tariff thing. If you're able to just like bully your enemy to doing what you want, then that is cool. But it is all like, so it says it's like, okay, if this is only ends up being used as a rhetoric thing and doesn't really actually play out in certain ways, it's like, okay, cool. And it sounds like that might be the case, but it's still like, holy shit, you are playing a dangerous game. So I don't know. And in me, like, whenever these situations like this and people say, oh, well, of course he'll bully into it, and like, he knows what he's doing. It's like, you really just want me to just trust the plan? Like, whenever that's one thing I can never get behind in politics, because it's like, I don't know, for example, we recently been talking about the confirmation hearings when it comes to like RFK, Tulsi and stuff like that. And a lot of them have had issues where it's like they have caved on certain things that were concerning here and there. And it's like the idea that people go, oh, well, truly, she really means this, and she's only doing this for political reasons and this and that. And like, to some extent, you're like, yeah, I get it. But in another extent, it's like, all I really have to go off is your word. And if someone's taking a position and then you go, oh, but they're secretly, this is really their position. It's like, I don't know to what extent I really should buy that. You are a politician after all. I'm not going to really, that is not acceptable to me. I'm sorry. And I get it is like kind of a catch-22, because it's like on the flip side, it's like, well, then they may not be effective in a political, position. But it's like, I don't know. It is what it is. This is the best I can do. But Trump agreed to pause tariffs for a month to negotiate a deal. Okay, well, that's cool. All right. Yeah. And then here's Abrogate. It says, we import so little from Canada. I don't think there is much to lose. It's also very difficult for Americans to sell products there. I think we tank their economy short term and something gets negotiated. You might be right. I mean, what the fuck do we even get from Canada, really? I mean, it kind of checks out to me from my understanding of their economy. I used to live in Maine, and so I would go up to Canada here and there. So it's like, I don't know. What is Canada making? I mean, maple syrup? I mean, that's a bitch, but we get that from Maine, too. So I don't know. I guess we're driving up the price of maple syrup. That's about all we're doing here, I guess. So I know it is kind of a mixed bag, but just a trend that I don't know to what extent I'm a fan of this. All right, here is Colin Rugg. He says, which is just kind of one of those generic fucking, influencer ones. But, here's new Ukrainian President Zelensky says Ukraine has only received about $75 billion of the $177 billion in aid that was allegedly sent from the United States. I don't know where all this money is. We never received it. So let's watch this video. I'm assuming it's probably got captions. I'll read it for you as we go along. But yeah, this kind of ties into our next story too, in the shenanigans that go into these money games whenever it comes to passing money around, foreign aid, this and that. It's like money gets pocketed along the way, and Zelensky's a fucking snake, so I don't trust him for shit. So he could be full of it, But I mean, if we are to take his word here, 75 billion of 177 billion was all he received. So 100 billion. So well over half of it he hasn't even received. So, or they didn't receive. So where the fuck did it go? We don't know. I guess it probably got, if I had to guess, it'd probably be just kind of, fees along the way. Like, this company did this and this. So it's like, but that's part of it. Like, that goes to this because he's, so it's like, it's kind of just money game along the way. And then all these contractors are making huge, big money in every step along the way. And essentially it's kind of the idea of like, you see this shit where it's like, this pen in the Pentagon was fucking $50. And you're like, what is going on here? It's just people are making money, pulling money off the top, essentially. It's essentially just legal embezzlement, basically. So, all right, let's watch this video.
Дивіться.
Look, when I hear, and I heard before, and today we hear from the USA.
І раніше чув, і сьогодні ми чуємо від Сполучених Штатів Америки, що Америка...
That America gave Ukraine hundreds of billions, 177 to be more precise.
177, якщо сказати більш точно. Така звучала...
That's what the exact figure sounded like, which was supported or voted by the Congress, etc. Oh, Jesus. Look, as the president of a warring country, I tell you, we received just over 75.
Більше 75.
That is 100 billion of these 177 or 200, some people even say, we have never received. And this is important because we are talking about specific things. Because we got it not with money, but with weapons. We got 70 billion worth of it, 70-something billion worth of it. So once again, he's not even saying he's got the straight money. It's just that money then got converted into weapons along the way. So even that kind of adds to my point of like, there's all these in-between middlemen probably along the way that somehow are getting their cut. And so by the time it actually gets to the entity that theoretically is receiving this aid, it's like, all this stuff along the way, and then they can just say, well, this was all part of the expense of getting this to them. And you're like, okay, well, this is just government bloat, and it totally makes sense that everybody would be in the take in this monstrosity that is the military-industrial complex. There's training, there's additional transport. There are not only prices for weapons.
Є навчання, тренування, є додатковий транспорт.
There are humanitarian programs, social, etc. But when they say that Ukraine during the war received $200 billion to support the army, etc., this is not true. I don't know where all this money is. Yeah, that's a little bit of a concern. That's only our fucking tax dollars, so that's cool. All right, that's talking. You're talking about the jet casualty. Okay. All right, sorry. I was confused because you kept saying a girl or whatever. Her last wish was to release Epstein. Like, okay, there we go. Okay, so the little girl because she's dying. Okay, like what is it called? Not final wish, make a wish. Okay, I get the vibe here. She went from swimming dolphins to swimming fishes. All right, a little bit dark because it's a little girl, but sad. But LPR, didn't the GOP try to pass an audit bill for the Ukraine money and the Dems stop it? If I recall correctly, I believe it was like Massey or maybe like a Rand Paul that did something. They were trying to insert a provision in the bill or something along those lines. And they basically, like, that was like essentially his, like, this is what I need. And I don't know, I remember it being a big issue. I mean, I might be getting that completely wrong. It was a while back. So here we go. FTX was money laundering it back to the Democratic Party for one. LOL. Yeah, I remember that. I forget how that money got followed. But yes, that is right. Part of this money game somehow was tied up in FTX. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Here we go. Somnambulous Schism. You fucking rock. Thank you, man. Thank you for the illest content in the motherfucking game. Thank you. Man, that is great for my ego. I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I really dig it. Well, all right, guys. Let's get into this next story. Here's from Kanakoa the Great. I hear good things about him. I've never really followed much of his content, but here he is talking about the USAID. For those who aren't aware, USAID went dark recently. Dark as a motherfucker. Apparently, I'll bring up anti-war again real quick so I can so I don't fuck this up. Because they wrote a piece on it, actually. So here we go. USAID website goes dark amid Trump's foreign aid pause. So the website and the social media. This is USAID, U.S. Agency of International Development, which I didn't even... Honestly, this is one of those ones that I just... like. I feel like this is by design. This entity is kind of just like not sexy, I guess, if that makes sense. Or I guess maybe I'm being a little conspiratorial saying it's by design. whether it's by design or not, it kind of functions this way. And I feel like it causes people not to really look into it because it just sounds like some boring bullshit, like agency. And then when you find out it's like kind of about foreign aid or money and finances, you're like, ugh. It kind of like most people's eyes kind of just like, ugh. It's like hearing the Charlie Brown teacher, wah, wah, wah. So you just kind of lose attention. You don't realize to what extent this thing fucks with shit. I mean, it wasn't until recently that I realized to what extent when I kind of looked into the stuff here, obviously, with the that we're about to get into, and then also I believe we covered a thread on this show with AOC, where she, early on, it looked like she was really linked up with USAID and was kind of really seems like a spooked up agency, if that makes sense. So that's what's going on. I wanted to make sure I got it correct. What went offline? This is due, I guess, to the pause on the foreign aid, is because this is, I guess, how this is done is through USAID. So it's been paused for a 90-day review. It's being overseen by Marco Rubio, according to the report, that Trump is considering scaling it down and putting it under the State Department. So, I mean, I guess I would say that's probably a win. I mean, it's still not great. It's still going to exist. It's still going to be under the State Department. But, I mean, putting it in a different spot, making a smaller subdivision, I guess was probably marginally better if I had to assume. But, yeah, so that's wild that is the case. Here's a good little quote from Nayib Bukele, and I feel like I've seen this stat before. I don't know where I've seen it that he's about to drop, but I just thought this was a good one. And maybe it was Bukele who said it before because I've seen it elsewhere, but this is a newer one. He said this on X in response to the whole USAID thing. He said most governments don't want USAID funds flowing into their countries because they understand where much of that money actually ends up. While marketed as support for development, democracy, and human rights, the majority of these funds are funneled into opposition groups, NGOs with political agendas, and destabilizing movements, Bukele wrote on X. At best, maybe 10% of the money reaches real projects that help people in need. Because, there are such cases, but the rest is used to fuel dissent, finance protests, and undermine administrations that refuse to align with a globalist agenda. Cutting this so-called aid isn't just beneficial for the U.S., it's also a big win for the rest of the world. Like, for example, I think if I recall correctly, USAID had a big part in the Ukraine shit a while ago. So, because this is what they do. They go, all these protests are going on. I go, look, all these protests. This is the will of the people. And you're like, they come to find out you got fucking dickheads out here, it's literally feeding money into it through NGOs, and it's like kind of like, through this person, through that person, through this person. So there's levels of plausible deniability, and also you just gotta go, this is foreign aid. Oh, we were giving to these aid groups, and then these aid groups go to other places. So this is one of these agencies where it really is just like people get bored with following the money, and so they just don't. But it looks like now people are following the money and getting a little bit wise to it to some extent. At least to the extent where they're going to maybe scale it down. We'll see. But all right, let's get back to the previous tab. I just wanted to make sure we got that little stat right about what was dark and what the specifics around it. Real quick, did you catch that Amon Hillman shivambuing all over that cult leader interview dealio? Amon Hillman. I don't know if I'm my mind's broken right now, but a lot of that is just I don't even know what you mean. The cult leader interview dealio. I don't know if you were referring to the Zizian stuff. I did check on the Zizian stuff for those who are wondering. There's not any new information really. There was one little thing that had nothing, but it's in FEAR. I don't know if you can find whatever. I don't know what you're talking about. If you find a link, I'll play it. Here's Abrogate Days. It says USAID has been a problem forever. Shutting down these NGOs is perhaps the greatest thing I've ever seen in politics. I hope we aren't getting played. Well, that is the thing. As I just said, they're putting it under the State Department. So USAID is still going to exist. It's only a 90-day pause. So I would presume that they're probably going to review the records or whatever and decide, what they want to keep and what they don't. If I had to guess, and even that's kind of a sort of better case scenario situation, sort of in my head. So yeah, I have a feeling that that's the what am I having? I'm having a brain fart. All of a sudden, I just saw it chat. It threw me off on my ADD. But yeah, I don't know. It's still going to exist. All right, I remember what I was saying. It looks like they're going to kind of take what they want and throw out this stuff they don't want. So I don't know. We'll see how this goes going forward. I'm not super duper duper hopeful, but I guess it seems like a slightly better, a move in the right direction at least. Now, this might be one of those things where now it gets memory hold and people don't even think about it. And then next time we do think about it, you're like, oh shit, it's a big problem again. It's basically blown up to be essentially the same entity it was before. We'll see. It's kind of the idea of like, oh, look, we have a minarchy. All right, I'm going to go away for a few hundred years. Holy shit, we have full-blown communism. It's again kind of the same idea. So, I mean, they are scaling it down, it seems. I'm not saying that it's like a minarchy in the sense that it's like almost great. It's just a reduced shittiness. But I don't know, we'll see. Doctor says, check out what Callum found about USAID. All right, let me pop over there and see what you have to say. Let's see. All right, share this tab instead. When I visiting Afghanistan after the Taliban had taken over, this is what was in the trash at the hotel. This is, I don't know who Callum is, but he has like 80,000 followers. So when I was visiting Afghanistan after Taliban took over, this is what was in the trash at the hotel. Let me see. I don't know if I'm gender sensitive training. Oh, USAID. Oh, Oh, so a bunch of USAID stuff in the trash. I don't know what the implication is here. When I was visiting Afghanistan after the Taliban, I found. So they're just saying about. Okay, I guess the implication here is there were a bunch of USAID people around at the time. Yeah, I guess. I mean, there's a lot of binders. I don't know. Yeah. All right. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's go back to this tab. Let me check in the chat. So he was with the Lotus Eaters for a while, as we said. Oh, okay. Cool. Which is. Oh, did I lose you guys? Are you there? Damn it. Oh, okay, cool. It was like, it fucking froze up again. I don't know what's going on with it. All right, yeah, he's from Lotus Eaters, which if I recall correctly, I believe that was like Sargon of Akkad's thing, I think. So, okay, cool. All right, let's check this back out. For Kaneko the Great, USAID funneled $53 million to EcoHealth Alliance, which then used taxpayer funds to support gain-of-function research on coronaviruses at the Wuhan lab, research that likely led to the creation of COVID-19. So there you go, COVID. USAID directly involved there. The CIA's deception regarding COVID-19 origins becomes much clearer when considering USAID's long history of serving as a CIA front organization. With an annual budget exceeding $50 billion in activities in over 100 countries, USAID has repeatedly been linked to intelligence activities. Former USAID Director John Gilligan once admitted the agency was infiltrated from top to bottom with CIA people, explaining that the idea was to plant operatives in every kind of activity we had overseas, government, volunteer, religious, every kind. One second, let me take it. Okay, sorry, I was making sure I wasn't still muted. Okay, yeah. All right. In 2013, a U.S. cable published by WikiLeaks outlined the U.S. strategy to undermine Venezuela's government through USAID by penetrating Chavez's political base, dividing Chavismo, and isolating Chavez internationally. Now, I actually remember this. I remember this was happening. There was a lot of shenanigans with the aid and stuff that was going through, and they were blocking aid at one point, and then, I forget, and then our administration was kind of like, look at them, look at these evil people, they're blocking aid, they don't want people to help. And it's like, yeah, but that aid was a poison pill aid. That was like USAID bullshit. This was like literally probably people bringing money, weapons, arms, or I guess arms is weapons, but you know what I mean, like provisions for fighters, or in some way or another, or to support protests or whatever. So it makes sense that this is a game. They do this, and like they have this aid projects that work to undermine some entity in some country, and then whenever the head of that country then starts causing issues, saying no, we don't want these people here, then they go, oh well, look at these evil people. They don't want to help their people. They don't care about their people. They want their people to die because they don't want aid to come. We're trying to help. It's like, yeah, it's not quite as simple as that. 2014, the Associated Press revealed that USAID funded the creation of a Twitter-like platform intended to incite a rebellion in Cuba. Didn't know about that one. That's Bob. USAID funding has been linked to coups in Haiti, Ukraine, Egypt, and other nations. From 2009 to 2019, I mean, this is how these color revolutions go down. This is like they legit find some entity, they fund them through whatever means, through this guy, through that guy, that goes through that guy, who goes to this guy, and now, ta-da! You have a possible fledgling, was it over administration or coup, whatever. I'm trying to think of the proper word. I'm out of it. Sorry, guys. From 2009 to 2019, partnered with the EcoHealth Alliance on the PREDICT program, which identified 1,200 new viruses, trained 5,000 people globally in disease detection, and enhanced 60 research labs. This partnership provided the CIA with a direct channel for embedding human assets within biological research facilities worldwide in exchange for funding and technology transfers. In 2022, Dr. Andrew Huff, a former VP at EcoHealth Alliance, publicly revealed Dr. Piers Daszak's alleged ties to the CIA. Which, by the way, we've had that guy on Tower Gang, which is an odd combo. But yeah, we've had that guy on Tower Gang. I believe Clint's also interviewed a couple times. I never had him on my show, but maybe one of these days I should. All right, the core issue, the CIA lied to the American public about COVID-19's origin because acknowledging the truth would expose its likely role in funneling taxpayer money through USAID to finance gain-of-function research at the Wuhan lab, which even now, I believe, I don't know, I mean, maybe they've changed, but they've changed, they pivoted to, they're open to the idea of being a lab leak in China, but nothing to indicate it has anything to do with it being their lab leak. Because that's the thing that most people, it seems like that might be the case, that it likely was coming literally from our lab. So yeah, we're like, ooh, heard China. And it's like, oh no, that was us. That was almost certainly us. Like if you follow the money, it was probably us. All right, here is another one of his. Dr. Robert Redfield, the former CDC director, says that U.S. taxpayer money from USAID, NIH, State Department, and DoD funded the creation of SARS-CoV-2. They wanted a single narrative, and I had a different point of view. Science has debate, and they squash any debate. There's no doubt that NIH was funding gain-of-function research. Is it likely that American tax dollars funded the gain-of-function research that created this virus? I think it did, as he says. All right, let's go and play this instead of reading it all.
I think just to emphasize, in early to mid-January, I did have multiple calls with Fauci, Farrar, and Tedros about how important I thought it was that science get engaged in aggressively pursuing both hypotheses. I also expressed, as a clinical virologist, that I felt it was not scientifically plausible that this virus went from a bat to humans and became one of the most infectious viruses that we have for humans. All viruses are not the same. So when you look at coronaviruses for SARS and MERS, for example, when they entered the human species, which they did via an intermediate, they never learned how to go human to human. Even to this day, they don't know how to go human to human. So you can't equate Ebola with a coronavirus.
Now, why do you think you were excluded from those calls?
Because it was told to me that they wanted a single narrative and that I obviously had a different point of view.
Okay. In emails following the conference call
That's pretty wild. The idea that, oh no, they want single narrative, so that's why they kept me out. Seemed very scientific, right? All right, let's keep going.
The 11 scientists told Fauci that they all found the genetic sequence inconsistent with expectations from evolutionary theory, basically what you're saying. However, just 3 days later, these 4 scientists had drafted a paper arguing the exact opposite, and that's now the infamous proximal origin of SARS-CoV-2. Our investigations show this paper was prompted by Dr. Fauci, among others, with a goal to disprove the lab leak theory. What is the likelihood that these scientists came across additional information just 3 days after making these statements to conclude with such certainty that COVID-19 came from nature instead of the lab leak that they thought it was 3 days earlier?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate. Again, I've said this before, that this whole approach that was taken on February 1st, and subsequently in the month of February, if you really want to be truthful, it's antithetical to science.
Thank you.
Science has debate, and they squashed any debate.
Thank you. Given what we know now and looking at all the conversations in February of 2020 and before the release of the paper, do you think that Dr. Fauci used this paper to hide the gain-of-function research created this virus?
I can't talk about Fauci's motivation.
Do you think that the paper does hide the truth?
I think it's an inaccurate paper that basically was part of a narrative that they were creating. Remember, this pandemic did not start in January at the seafood market. We now know there was infections all the way back into September. This was a narrative that was decided that they were going to say this came from the wet market, and they were going to do everything they could to support it, to negate any.
All right, just a recap for those who maybe zoned out or something. He's saying that they legit came together and they came with a single narrative to blame it on some wet market bullshit. So that nonsensical story that went around, and then everyone thought, "Were you immediately like, oh, were you racist?" If you brought up the China lab leak, ironically, even though it was them. Yeah, I mean, we're supposed to believe it's because some Chinese dude ate a bat or some bullshit. Yeah, get the fuck out of here. All right.
Any discussion about the possibility that this came from a
I
laboratory?
got 20 seconds left. Dr. Fauci was affirmatively told in an email that NIAID had a monetary relationship with the Wuhan Institute through EcoHealth Alliance. He was told this in January 27th of 2020. Do you think that Dr. Fauci intentionally lied under oath to Senator Paul when he vehemently denied NIH's funding of gain-of-function research?
I think there's no doubt that NIH was funding gain-of-function research.
Is it likely that American tax dollars funded the gain-of-function research that created...
For those who don't remember, there was this whole back and forth between Rand Paul and Fauci about whether he was way back when, I forget when, but whether they funded gain-of-function research, and then I forget the silly fucking word games he played. He phrased things certain ways. You're like, oh, maybe if you look at an incredibly legalistic way, you could, or literal way, you could go, oh, well, maybe he meant this and not that. It was very clear he was skating around it.
Created this virus?
I think it did, not only from NIH, but from the State Department, USAID, and from DOD.
I'm out of time.
All right, yeah, that's it. Okay, let's keep going. All right, here's Mr. Malone, Robert Malone, I think. Yep. There was a quid pro quo set up, and we transferred technology into Wuhan Institute of Virology to allow a limited number of human assets to have visibility of what was going on there. There was technology transfer associated with Ralph Barrick, and that whole program involved modern advanced recombinant virology, DNA technology, and known research specifically on coronaviruses. If you go back in the literature, coronaviruses have been identified as one of the leading candidate agents for biowarfare for a very long time. We knew that China was doing stuff. We didn't know what they were doing. We wanted to have eyes, and we engaged in a quid pro quo that involved both funding transfer and technology transfer, and Tony Fauci knew all about it. There was technology transferred from EcoHealth Alliance and Ralph Barrick having to do with this furin cleavage site. The specific mutations, the engineering of the virus, and potentially passaging in a humanized mouse strain that gave rise to a cluster of coronaviruses that were kept banked. By the way, they have a massive bank of other coronaviruses that is there and untapped, and we don't even know what the contents are. They came up with a portfolio of recombinant viruses, and they were testing those recombinant viruses, and somebody got infected. Yeah, I'm not gonna watch the whole video. There's a 3-minute video of him talking because that was a long clip. I mean, the long quote he put there. So that was all a quote I just read. So I mean, that's probably a decent amount of the talk. One little point I did want to bring up. This kind of reminded me the idea of coronaviruses and this going on. I remember when this was started off to begin with, or early on in COVID times. Me and my wife were talking about it. My wife's a veterinary tech. So, I mean, she's not a vet, she's a vet tech. It's like the equivalent of like a nurse, essentially. And, we've bred for a long time, too. So I have a decent, me and her kind of have semi-decent veterinary knowledge. I guess she obviously has way more. I remember when this started, we were talking about it, and we were talking about coronaviruses, because this is actually an issue in cats where, there are, like, I forget what type of, there's like a coronavirus in cats. I believe it even like kills them. It's like way more dangerous than it is in like humans. But one of the big issues is they were never able to find a vaccine. And I guess there's multiple other strains. They've been trying forever and ever and ever. That was something we were always looking for because that was always like a possibility. And it was one of those like weird weird illnesses that was borderline impossible to avoid when it came to animals. So it was like we were kind of keeping an eye out for when there was any sort of medical anything that would deal with this, and there wasn't. And so I remember from the beginning having my eyes raised when all of a sudden, oh, ta-da, we have a vaccine. And you're like, you have a vaccine for a coronavirus, a specific type of virus to which we have never had a vaccine for. Because a lot of people don't realize that. They're like, that's not like I might be talking my ass a little bit here because in my recollection, I'm not a doctor or anything. But yeah, they're, I believe before this, I don't think there was ever any sort of actual effective vaccine ever against coronavirus. I guess technically there still isn't, but you know what I mean. That's kind of the crux of the issue here. So, all right, let's pop back in the chat, see what you guys have to say. It's been a minute since I checked in with y'all. All right, let's see. People talking about the virus. Scientists proved it was man-made, said Joey. They sprinkled some AIDS in there. Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know how true that is. Corey Anson says the original alpha coronavirus was discovered in 1963 by Dorothy Hammer. So at least the 60s we knew about it, but pretending this was brand new. I mean, there's all different types of coronaviruses. So, I mean, but I think most of them were like in animals too. So that's like kind of the thing. Joey Poopbag, if I remember correctly, Spike Design is on the HIV platform. Okay. All right. Let's pop in. And here's one from Ken. I just thought it was funny. He says, New York Times basically admitting that the liberal hashtag resistance hasn't occurred after the 2024 election because corporations aren't funding it. Obviously, this isn't like perfectly in line, but kind of is. I felt like this tied to the USAID discussion because, obviously people remember all the protests during the Trump administration, and some of it did seem kind of contrived, artificial. It seemed to be. We're just not seeing that now. But there's an excerpt from an article. It's just funny because like the way these USAID things, they give them to NGOs or corporations or whatever, or the NGOs give it to a corporation and they do this with that. So it's kind of like, that's kind of the connection here I'm making. 8 years ago, after Mr. Trump's first victory, party officials followed the lead of liberal voters who rushed to protest, poured money into Democratic campaigns, and ran for local offices. This time, demonstrations have been minimal to non-existent as corporate leaders curry favor with the new administration and liberal celebrities mute their opposition out of fear of retribution. Okay, I mean, I guess to be fair, I guess they're not entirely saying it's because corporations aren't funding it. It's part of it. I guess they're also saying the liberal celebrities aren't, saying much. The idea being, I guess, that they're implying that. I mean, it's weird they would mention the corporate leaders. I guess maybe they're trying to imply something similar to the celebrity thing, like, oh, these big figures aren't coming out to stir up the masses. But there's definitely a little bit of a subtext here of like, okay, why'd you say corporate leaders? What do they have to contribute here? I mean, I guess you could say like an Elon or something, but even then, I guess that would fall under a celebrity at that point. If you are a corporate leader that's well known, then you are now a celebrity. So you could easily fall into that latter category. So I don't know, what are these corporate leaders doing here? I think probably they're implying. I mean, at least we can infer. Whatever. It's kind of funny. All right, this is the last thing I think we'll go into today. I want to talk about. I want to dig a little bit into this old weirdo JD Vance. See what he has to say. Real quick. Here's the fire scene. Nobody's dropping off pallets of bricks just left in front of stores anymore. No one. What the hell, man? What's going on with this world? And I thought we used to have corporations in this country. All right, here we go. Here's Boltzmann Booty. He's replying to some tweet where somebody said something about, what's it about JD Vance being a Catholic or whatever. And then Boltzmann Booty says traditional Catholic equals converted to Catholicism because a transhumanist billionaire CIA/Pentagon Mossad asset told him to, and then subsequently funded his entire political career. So let's see to what extent this is actually legit. I didn't read these, so I will. Boltzmann usually is pretty damn on point, so we'll see. And he says not even exaggerating a little bit. And so here is some excerpts where we can see some excerpts from some articles. Here's one of them. JD Vance used to think the world would end in 2007. Enchanted by his father's conservative Protestant church in Ohio, the teenage Vance took to reading millennialist prophecy, threw away his Black Sabbath CD, and logged on to chat rooms to debate evolution with scientists. Here's another one. Vance tells a story of how his beliefs have changed by reference to other people. After serving for 4 years in the U.S. Marine Corps, in 2007, with the world had not yet ended, he went to Ohio State University. He read the new atheist thinkers Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris and declared himself one of their number. He rejected his faith, he exclaimed in a 2020 essay in Catholic Journal The Lamp, to fit in with the social elite he was now surrounded by. I began to think and then eventually to say things like, the Christian cosmos is more like North Korea than America, and I know where I'd like to live. And here we go. And then Peter Thiel changed Vance's mind. Okay. At Yale Law School in 2011, Vance went to talk by the right-wing venture capital billionaire who went to talk, I mean, probably meant to a talk, I'm assuming, who was possibly the smartest person I've ever met, and yet a Christian. Inspired by Thiel, Vance read St. Augustine and the French Christian philosopher René Girard, questioned his beliefs once again, and in 2019 was baptized as a Catholic. I mean, I don't really know enough about Thiel, but I'm going to go ahead and say I don't know to what extent I buy that he is Catholic. He is a dude who's into butt stuff. If that he's gay. He is a gay guy. So like I don't know. And I don't necessarily have a problem with the gays. And you guys, and what people follow me long enough know, I'm not even particularly religious. I just I know where Christianity falls on this, and Catholicism. So it is like, I don't know. I struggle to believe this guy is that. I don't know what the angle is here. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But either way, it is odd that now he's he's the one who somehow changed his mind. I mean, I guess it could just be coincidence, whatever. And now he's the guy who then later ends up funding everything. Here's more excerpts from Bootsman. These are pretty long. Around the same time, I attended a talk at our law school with Peter Thiel. This was 2011, and Thiel was a well-known venture capitalist, but hardly a household name. He would later blurb my book and become a good friend, but I had no idea what to expect at the time. He spoke first in personal terms, arguing that we were increasingly tracked into cutthroat professional competitions. We would compete for appellate clerkships and then Supreme Court clerkships. We would compete for jobs at elite law firms and then for partnerships at those same places. Okay. At each juncture, he said our jobs would offer longer work hours, social alienation from our peers, and work whose prestige would fail to make up for its meaningless. He also argued that his own world of Silicon Valley spent too little time on the technological breakthroughs that made life better, those in biology, energy, and transportation, and too much on things like software and mobile phones. Everyone could now tweet each other or post photos on Facebook, but it took longer to travel Europe. And we had no cure for cognitive decline, dementia, and our energy use increasingly dirtied the planet. He saw these trends, elite professionals trapped in hyper-competitive jobs, and the technological stagnation of society as connected. If technological innovation were actually driving real prosperity, our elites wouldn't feel increasingly competitive with one another over a dwindling number of prestigious outcomes. I mean, this just reinforces, we have a couple more to read in this little bit, but this kind of reinforces the nature of their relationship, and it is wild that literally while he was in law school, it seems like, is when this popped off. So then I guess he said later he would check out his book and become a good friend. Well, okay, I guess I don't know when his book came out. So I guess he's saying that he saw him when he was in 2011 when he was in law school. Later he wrote a book. I don't know when the book came out. And then he became a good friend. Okay, I guess I'm just trying to track the timeline here of like how, because it almost looks like, this guy scooped him up pretty damn early and was like, you're my little puppet now, is what it feels like. I mean, I might be wrong. Peter's talk remains the most significant moment of my time at Yale Law School. He articulated a feeling that had until then remained unformed, that I was obsessed with achievement and say, not as an end to something meaningful, but to win a social competition. My worry that I prioritized striving over character took on a heightened significance. Striving for what? I didn't even know why I cared about the things I cared about. I fancied myself educated, enlightened, especially wise about the ways of the world, at least compared with most of the people from my hometown. Yet I was obsessed with obtaining professional credentials, a clerkship with a federal judge, and an associate position at a prestigious firm that I didn't understand. I hated my limited exposure to legal practice. I looked at the future and realized that I had been running in a desperate race where the first prize was a job I hated. I began immediately planning for a career outside the law, which is why I spent less than 2 years after graduation as a practicing attorney. But Peter left me with one more thing. He was possibly the smartest person I'd ever met, but he was also a Christian. He defied the social template I had constructed that dumb people were Christians and smart one atheists. I began to wonder where his religious belief came from, which led me to René Girard, the French philosopher whom he apparently studied under at Stanford. Girard's thought is rich enough that any effort to summarize will fail to do the man justice. His theory of mimetic rivalry, that we tend to compete over the things that other people want, spoke directly to some of the pressures experienced at Yale. But it was his related theory of the scapegoat and what it revealed about Christianity that made me reconsider my faith. One of Girard's central insights is that human civilizations are often, perhaps even always, founded on a scapegoat myth. An act of violence committed against someone who has wronged the broader community, retold as a story, sort of origin story for the community. Okay, all right, so there's more on that. Considered running for office in 2018, baptized in 2019, successful Thiel-funded Senate campaign in next cycle. Okay, so now this does kind of fall in line. Okay, because he saw him in 2011, so he's kind of attributing him to that. But then he doesn't get baptized until 2019. I mean, you can. I mean, whatever. I guess there was a... I don't know how long this... maybe he did plant a little seed. Maybe he planted a ideological seed, and that it bloomed later, and he had some sort of revelation about religion. But it does seem kind of convenient. And this does kind of make me think of, and I don't know if this is legit or not, but this reminds me of the Knights of Malta shit that William Ramsey's been talking about a lot recently, which is essentially, I guess, a Catholic order, I think. Kind of, I guess, similar to like an Opus Dei or something, which that's another entity I need to look into at some point. But, I guess there seems to be a lot of them in the Trump administration. And so it seems like we're dealing with I guess if you look behind it's kind of like looking behind the curtain thing. And it's like, I know it's the whole thing where we always say, oh, does Jews run the world? Oh, does Jesuits run the world? And it's like, okay, well, it seems to be this is a Catholic contingency here. I'm not saying necessarily any one of them actually rules the world, but it seems to be we have some sort of weird competing dynamics here, or there seems to be some sort of elite Catholic entity that also has some sort of trying to manipulate things. I mean, obviously, I think things when you look at the top are a little bit more complicated than just like a simple the Illuminati and then everybody else. I think there's probably different groups vying for control and agreeing on some places. So. All right, here's some excerpts kind of related to the whole baptism, running for office, and then kind of being funded by Teal. So, yeah. Because he considered running in 2018, then he was baptized in 2019, and I think after that there was a successful Senate campaign. All right, Vance was raised as a conservative evangelical branch of Protestantism. By September 2016, he was not an active participant in any particular Christian denomination, but was thinking very seriously about converting to Catholicism. Okay, bear in mind his supposed talk with this guy was in 2011, so then I guess 5 years later, those seeds bloomed, and now he's really questioning things. In August 2019, Vance was baptized and confirmed in the Catholic Church in a ceremony at St. Gertrude Priory in Cincinnati, Ohio. He chose Augustine of Hippo as his confirmation saint. Vance said he converted because he became persuaded over time that Catholicism was true, and Augustine gave me a way to understand Christian faith in a strong intellectual way. Further describing Catholic theology's alignment with his political views, Vance was influenced to convert to Catholicism by Peter Thiel. Oh yeah, by the way, I know I just mentioned William Ramsey. I don't know if I said it a second ago, but he's going to be on tomorrow night on Already Dead. And Austin's back, so hell yeah, baby. He's not doing by the way, he's not doing anything till then. I don't even know why I said that, because there isn't anything to then. He might do maybe he'll do a morning dump tomorrow. I work tomorrow, so I won't do one. Keep an eye on his channel. Austin will probably do it, but I think he's been back for a couple days, but he's still got people staying with him and stuff, so he can't podcast right now. But anyways, yeah, this is weird, and it does make me think about the whole Knights of Malta thing, because this almost seems like, maybe this guy's this almost seems like his initiation into like a Knights of Malta or Opus Dei or something along those lines. I don't know, maybe not. So. All right, here is the 2022 campaign. Never mind. Here's the clips about the little bit about his campaign stuff. In early 2019, Vance considered running for the U.S. Senate against Sherrod Brown, but did not. In March 2021, Peter Thiel gave $10 million. Okay, so bear in mind the 2019, August 2019, so late 2019 is when the baptism happened, and then 2021 in March. So early March, a little over a year then, Peter Thiel gave him $10 million. All right. To protect Ohio values, a super PAC created in February to support a potential Vance candidacy. All right. Robert Mercer also gave an undisclosed amount. In April, Vance expressed interest in running for the Senate seat being vacated by Rob Portman. In May, he launched an exploratory committee. All right. That's all on that. And then he said... When I was in Yale, I was locked in an empty life of power seeking, just operating on an autopilot to serve interests I didn't even understand until my friend Peter Thiel came along. Now I'm Catholic and also the vice president. Yeah, it's just that's Boltzmann Booty being silly. It is funny because I didn't even think about that. There is that one little bit where he's going on about how like, we're all looking for these superficial like positions and trying to be raised in the world. And you're like, dude, you're the fucking VP. That was like carried to power by the fucking like one of the richest people in the world, who looks like probably one of the scary future fucking or trying to be a future fucking technocrat, like a fucking techno fucking Frankenstein looking motherfucker. Yeah, that dude's fucking creepy. All right, that's all on the Catholic side of things, but I do have more on there's more. I know we have stuff we're going to his military side of things. I thought that was interesting. Obviously, this is just pattern recognition stuff. All of this could be completely fucking... He could be completely legit. All of that could be a legit conversion, and that's how it went, and blah, 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 blah. It just seems a little artificial. I might be wrong. All right, let's scroll up. I'm going to check in the chat with y'all. All right, let me see. Was Kennedy a bisexual? Because they just love to make that SIAG. I don't know what SIAG. SYAG president? I don't know what that means. I doubt he was gay. I don't know. They were back in the time where like they didn't really need to be gay. I mean, like, he was banging so many chicks. It was like, we got blackmail on you. I mean, yeah, it may not be as like dope blackmail in their eyes, at least, as we do now, where you're like, Epstein's like, yo, dude, we got you doing like some of the most awful things anyone could even imagine in their head, or as opposed to Kennedy being like, we have you sleeping with a cute whore. I mean, that back then that was enough. It was almost better times when it was like, hey, you couldn't get away banging some slut. But nope. Now to rule the world, you gotta like murder, you gotta like eat children or something. All right, Dr. 420 says, poor kid from the Haulers goes through the atheist phrase, talks to friend, changes his mind seriously. This is evidence of what? Well, no, okay, but here's the thing, though. I mean, I get it. This could be all legit, but this is Peter Vance, when the fucking, not Peter Vance, Peter Thiel, one of the richest motherfuckers. It's not evidence. It just is odd. It's very odd when you look at the time things fell through. What, he just so happened to get like a fucking, like a technocrat billionaire buddy? You know, I don't know. Well, so, I mean, yeah. All right. With all fairness, the Catholics are a group that are borderline obsessed with butt stuff. Okay. All right. I didn't know that. Robin says, I'm Jewish. I'm convinced my ex-husband to become Christian. He recently did an outreach mission to South America. Cool. Sounds like dude is in love with Stahl. Says, yeah, he does seem to really love, Pure Deal, doesn't he? Piovi says, atheists do some really wild shit based on their preferences, not morality. Catching 45 was Jesus a scapegoat. Yeah, I've heard that before. This idea of way to look at it. It's almost just a way to look at things in archetypes and how things play out, and like the ideas of scapegoats and like how Jesus was the perfect scapegoat. Trying to remember the guy. There's a guy. God, he has like a radio show actually in Florida, like near me. I just can't never remember his name. He's like a big guy. Damn it, I'll think of his name later. But he's done a lot of coverage on that. Someone in the chat, maybe you'll know who I'm talking about. If so, chat it and I'll bring it up so I can give him a shout out. Because he's done a lot of coverage on that. That's like kind of one of his main shticks. Which I think he had somebody crazy on, some big dude on recently, like a Bannon or some big. Anyways. Stahl says Catholics bend the knees to Jews just like everyone else. I don't know about that. I am not entirely sure. I really feel like it depends. Okay. We got people just, if Christ equals drug, probably made the crucible, then Ammon is on point. I don't know what any of that means. So Ammon, isn't Ammon like supposed to be like a demonic entity? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. All right. Before JD Vance was JD Vance, he was JD Hamill, a Marine Corps public affairs operative that deployed to Iraq to write puff pieces about soldiers and escort civilian press around. So he's literally U.S. military propaganda asset under his old name. Which, I mean, whatever. There are people in public affairs. Now, I will say, for me, I see this and, he's still a Marine. So cool, Marine, but it's just like it kind of tears down at the colloquial idea of what a Marine is, especially if you're someone who's done any time in the military. You're like, dude, come on, you were public affairs. Like he was a fucking essentially a journalist for the military. He had a fucking nonner job, a faggoty little nonner job. I don't know, like, cool. It's good for you if you get that job when you're in, like, whatever. Usually they're pretty cake. A lot of times they set you up pretty good for the outside. It's a lot of times better than just being like a knuckle dragger who's like infantry or mechanic or cop or any one of those like different things that are more like what people tend to think of in the spirit of a military member, and like kind of a knuckle dragger, kind of a, he's not really that. He is kind of this law school elite dude thing. I know he's coming from this poor background, but he's, I don't know. I'm just saying it does kind of tear down a little bit. Not to throw any shade at anyone out there. I'm just saying, I'm sorry. If this is you kind of lose a little cred if you're trying to be like, I was a Marine. And you're like, man, shut the fuck up. You took pictures. And it isn't even like a competition, like, oh, because I killed people and you didn't, or I didn't. I'm just a mechanic. I'm just saying it's different. It's a different job. It's what people would call in the military a non-essential job. He's a nonner. If this job disappeared, If you like theoretically, in your idea of like what the mission is, what absolutely has to be done by the perspective of like the military or whoever's in charge, like the things that need to be done, like we need to go bomb this target, we need to go do this, we need to do that, the things that need to be done. Like there are essential personnel. You have like, you have your ground troops, you have like your pilots, you have your mechanics, you have and all the, like anyone who actually contributes to making that stuff happen, like really make it happen. And then you have the people who are called non-essential personnel that are literally just waste of tax dollars. And that's what this is. Like, I don't give a shit about pictures in a fucking military paper that the only people who are going to read is the people on base. Yeah, that's what that is. But I mean, let's see, maybe this gets a little bit more juicy. I don't really know what to make of it, but all right. I mean, it is weird, his name. JD Hamill. Here's an article he wrote. I'm not going to read that. So here's an article he wrote. Here is James D. Hamill. More stuff from him. So his name's James D. Changed from Hamill for some fucking reason. I don't know why. And then here's another one. Some more pieces written by him. So yeah, he wrote pieces. He was a journalist. I mean, nothing bad. I'm just saying, like, super. It's kind of the idea of I'm just kind of breaking the idea of what people think of when they see it. Here's just more pictures of him. By the way, once again, there's probably, I'm not saying anything bad here. There's Boltman saying, we're vanquished the deep state with a mysterious name and religion-changing Pentagon war journalist who was handpicked, funded, and mentored for years by CIA/IDF/DOD contractor for political success. Which that's kind of the idea here. Booty's like right in that, like pointing out these. It's not that we're saying that I mean, all of these weirdnesses around him could be perfectly explainable, and he's just a normal guy. But there is a lot to be. I mean, that's kind of a good way to put it. A mysterious name and religion-changing Pentagon war journalist who was handpicked, funded, and mentored for years by CIA, IDF, and DOD contractor for political success. So, I mean, that's kind of the crux of it right there. I mean, this point being is it's keep your eyes open because it's weird. He also lied about his time and reason for his name change for some reason. Here's a little excerpt. I'm not going to... I don't know why. Actually, let's read it. In 2007, Vance left the military and used a GI Bill to study political science and philosophy at Ohio State. He graduated in 2009 with a Bachelor of Arts, summa cum laude. Vance then attended Yale Law School. And I do actually, on the military thing, I do want to add another little point to this too. Because, with this military preceding college, I think in him coming from a more meager, lower class, middle class, whatever upbringing, people would kind of see this and like, oh, he went to the military, and then, but it seemed like he was kind of already on this path to begin with, in that he's going down the public affairs, and there's a good, solid chance it's completely just coincidental. I just wanted to point out that it's like this guy was kind of already on the track of because he's like a journalist, I'm sure he's making good connections there. He's kind of on the track already. I just thought that was worth pointing out. He graduated in 2009. Okay. He then attended Yale, where he was a member of the Yale Law Journal. During his first year, Professor Amy Chua persuaded Vance to begin writing his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy. Oh, okay. So now this clicks in. So he began writing his memoir in 2010, 2011. So, okay. So because I'm trying to figure out when the bump from Teal was, because he said he got some sort of blurb or something about his book. So I'm trying to figure out like when the at least purported first entering of a relationship began. Although I wouldn't be surprised if it happened before then. But that's when he first claims. Vance wrote for Dave Frum's Frum Forum website under the name JD Hamill. Although Hillbilly Elegy states that he adopted his grandparents' surname of Vance upon his marriage in 2014, the name change actually occurred in 2013 as Vance was about to graduate from Yale with a Juris Doctor degree. Well, that's weird. I mean, I don't think it really matters. I mean, it's just an oddity. So yeah, that's really all I got on that. I mean, once again, nothing here is anything necessarily bad. I'm just saying, use a little bit of common sense, pattern recognition, and kind of read between the lines and just kind of, walk into this knowing what we're dealing with. We are dealing with a guy who kind of was on the path from the beginning. I mean, we're sold this, from rags to riches story and how he's, this great moral, and maybe he is, but in the same breath, he also went through the kind of the perfect little military path to Yale, to law school, then linking up with, and even his religion ties into this. So I don't know, it's just a lot of patterns you have to ignore to not be concerned, essentially. Okay. Even the Vance name is fake. Good God. Yeah, exactly. Okay, guys. I think it's really all I got for today. But it was pleasure being with y'all again today. I should be back. I won't be here Tuesday. I'm working tomorrow for sure. I'm not sure about Wednesday. That's up in the air. But bear in mind, we have a Tuesday. We have William Ramsey coming back on the show. So we're looking forward to that. And Austin's coming back. So I'm looking forward to catching him up. Keep an eye out. We're going to have a new segment now on the Already Dead shows. I believe my video promotion guy is still working on that right now. At Jolly on Klebold is working on. We're going to start doing like a kind of week in review on Already Dead. So we'll kind of do like for those who watch Tower Gang, you see Laney does those edits every week. Now we're doing that. We're doing it on the. It's the same idea, but on Already Dead instead. And instead of the previous, like Tower Gang or previous Already Dead, we're doing like a super edit from the morning dumps. So that way, it's like a week in review on Already Dead. So we'll watch it to kind of jog our memories of what's going on. And I'm looking forward to it, especially because Austin's been out, so we just get like kind of MK Ultra him with the previous week, and him be like, "What the fuck?" And then we get to talk about it. So that should be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Someone's that get Stan Smots on, well, tell him you want him to come on. I think I invited him to come on a while back or something. It's just a matter of making his schedule work. So. I don't hit him up. Maybe I'll remind him and he'll be like, oh shit, I have an opening in my schedule. What time Tuesday? 9:30 p.m. Eastern is when we do Already Dead. Every week, me and Austin, and if one of us can't make it, we have Jules Sidden, our producer, but we have William Ramsey joining us today, and I'm looking forward to it. It should be, or not today, tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a fun one. We're definitely going to end up talking about the Knights of Malta stuff. I'm looking forward to that. It's pretty crazy stuff. And as I said, I do kind of want to bring up, like, hey, are there any connections with Vance, Teal? Like, what? Because, that is weird. Something about the whole religion thing did strike me odd. Maybe it's nothing. It could be completely legit. Just, he just happened to meet a super duper rich technocrat that, brought him along on his religious journey and kind of brought him to success. And it's really just as simple as that. And there's nothing else to be concerned about. Maybe I'm a little bit doubtful of that because I'm not retarded. But let's. But before we get out of here, guys, I do want to remind you guys, if you want to support me, you can do that at patreon.com. There's No Way Jose 2020. The lowest level is $2, and that gets you the early access to the episodes. As I said earlier, I don't have one for this week. I'm sorry, I fucked up. So it is what it is. But also, it allows you to be a talking head on Already Dead. So if you want to talk to William Ramsey, come tomorrow. You guys, all you gotta do is pay $2 to me or Austin. You can support Austin as well. And we put out the link every on the day of, and you can hop on the video call-in portion, which is the second half of the show. We open the phone lines. You can pop on, and you can shoot the bull with us as a talking head, kind of like I am right now. But you're also going to add free RSS feed there. The highest level is my sponsors. I read them off every episode. My co-host on Tower Gang, at Tower Gang Toad. Also have at Abrogate D's, at ZOVERACK, at _Infinite Zeal. Then also have Tim Tuttle, at Jolly on Klebold. Definitely give him a follow. He's been creating a lot of video work for me recently. He is the shit. Will Bell's Delicious Blueberry Rabbit Eye Wine. Then big fan of the show, Torrin May. Then at INWARD Lover. Because we all should learn to look inward and learn to love ourselves. And the world will be a much better place. But yeah, make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. If you are listening to this on an audio platform, please go leave a 5-star review. It helps out a lot. Austin's beating me right now, so fuck you guys. I've been doing this game. Like, that's not cool. Let's make this I was looking at his reviews over on Spotify the other day. He has I think 5 more than me or something. Let's bump those numbers up. But yeah, make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment. If you want to follow me, you can do that over at Tower Gang Jose on X or Twitter.com. But yeah, it's been a pleasure hanging out with y'all. And with that, we are out of here. Deuces.